All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Weatherman. Welcome back. It turns out this is coding vlog number 7. If you checked out the previous one, thought it was, but it wasn't. It was number 6. So we have just ended week number 3 with General Assembly. And I realized that my last upload was either Monday or Tuesday, so I was a little late getting to the last upload. And so we've just finished our presentations as of today. And I wanted to go ahead and go over this week's project that I worked on, which is entirely my own code, somewhere around 400 or so lines of JavaScript, just a quick little HTML file, and another couple hundred lines of CSS. It ended up being way more than I expected it to be, and yet at the same time not enough. So this week, all day, every day was just project after Monday's presentation day that you've already heard me bitch about. So I'd just like to get into this, show you what I did, show you what we've worked with so far. All of this is going to be vanilla JavaScript. Nothing is going to be React or Ruby or anything like that. We will be starting React next week. Next week is going to be our React node, or when I say node, I mean like our node of the class, not like node the language. So next week we're going to start learning React, and then we'll be using that for the rest of the course. So I decided that I wanted to make a League of Legends match history site based on just basically trying to clone OPGG to the best of my ability with the 3.5 days I was given. I didn't actually get to start until about noon on Monday, and we spent all of Friday today presenting and talking about other crap. So I had all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and half of the day Monday to do this. So all in all, 3.5 days of code I think went rather well. There were some challenges, there were some victories, there were some losses. So let's get into it. I'm going to talk about the logic that I used for this project and show it off. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and pull up a match history. We'll pull up my own. And as we can see, we have my camera in the way. That's okay, we'll scroll. So on the left, we have rank stats, just like you would expect. I am a lowly silver pleb at the moment, peaked in gold 3, and I haven't played much this season, and my win rates are abysmal. So blame me all you want. But I got it to iterate over and give me about 25, 30 matches with items, KDA, champion, summoner spells. You get the idea. Okay, so I'm missing some functionality here that we're all used to. I don't think anybody would have expected me to get the drop-down menu with all the advanced stats. But if you've ever checked out OPGG, you will know that there is a CS per minute, there is match, timer, victory or loss, when the game was played, how long ago, and when you hover over the items, it gives you, a description of the item. My site doesn't do any of that. Quite frankly, it was rather advanced, and big shout out to Kirkmania on the LOL Dev Discord, who kind of helped me through this. He's apparently a student in the UK in his final semester at uni for software development. So he does most of his stuff in Python, but and using jQuery, which was a running joke between the two of us. But we had a good time. He spent probably about 3 hours on voice calls with me sharing my screen, helping me work through some of the logic, especially for iterating over JSON files, because it's just not something that I was used to. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the code, and I'll explain how all of this logic worked. Of course, all of my windows just kind of went down there for a second. Oh, there we go. Okay, so code. In my JavaScript file here, first we had to go ahead and just set variables for our API calls, just all the links that we'd be using for the API, and then set some variables for all the DOM elements that I was going to be using to append. Like I said before, not too much in the DOM, less than 50 lines, just basically a search bar with a couple penguin images and some empty divs to be placeholders to throw matches in. That being said, we have the logic to, and I'm going to show you this. This is what you'll find inside Riot's API. I'm sure that there's no legal problem in showing you this. So the reason we have to write these functions here is because by default, the items and the champions are objects. They're not arrays, so I can't iterate over them. In order to iterate over them, I had to run these and push all of the content of the objects into these arrays so that then they'd be iterable. And the other problem with it is that whenever you go ahead and pull the champions or pull the player stats for the match, they don't show you like what item they built or what champion they played per se. They spit you back a number. They spit you back a 4-digit ID for items, a 4-digit ID for summoner spells, and an ID number for champions. So all of these things need to be run through these JSON files and converted so that I can read, for example, Aatrox's key is 266, so if somebody pops back saying champion key 266, I need it to find Aatrox, tell me that the image is called aatrox.png, so that in my assets folder over here, I can get down and go into the image files and get to Aatrox.png. That way I can display my Aatrox photo on screen. So the difference between the champion JSONs and the item JSONs makes a difference because you get spit back a key either way, and in the champion JSON, these are the names of the champions are first up, and the key's hiding inside. Meanwhile, they say, oh, okay, well, the key for your item is 1100. Well, there it is right at the beginning, so I don't need to look through boots because it's inside. So it just made it one extra step. I don't know why, if the same company is writing all of this, that they would have different logic for their items than they do for their champions, but just what it is. So we go ahead and we push all those in, get the JSON objects into the JavaScript file. You type in something whenever you submit. We go ahead and take that value and we pass it into a search function, which also contains a sleep function a bit later on. Reason for the sleep function: Riot's API keys for personal use have a max of 20 requests per second, 100 requests every 2 minutes. So in order to not time that out, I have to stop it every 5 or 10 requests so that I don't exceed the limit. That being said, the way they work is a little bit roundabout. You first have to pass in a summoner name, which we're doing in the search bar, and you get back a list of items. It's an encrypted account ID, encrypted summoner ID, PUU ID, and along with a couple other bits of information about whatever player it is you're looking up. I think we went over this in the last video. So you end up getting their account ID, pass that in for a match list, and then look through the match list to get each individual game ID, which you can then use to look through the game details. From there, you need to go ahead and look through each individual match. So we're going to say, we're going to look through all the participants, and we're going to find which participant it is that was searched for in the search bar. And once we've finally done that, we will have a nice chunk of data that is just one person inside the match that you can pull, in which case we define player. Now, once we've gotten player, now I can pass that into my pull stats function, where I will declare everything. The champion played, which summoner spells they had, how many kills, deaths, assists, all their items, which is what I did here. I took all of the player items and summoner spells, pushed them into arrays, and passed them into another function to get all of them thrown into the same div to iterate through. So next we have all of our functions that will append data to the page. And there's a bit of sloppy code coming up for anybody who knows how to read this, and I'm sorry. So we have all sorts of variables to declare our rank tier, emblem, LP, all that stuff, and append it to the page. And at this point, after I had finished that, I was finding out that I was appending like both rank emblems and then both sets of text, and the easiest way for me to fix it was just to I could have found some logic to write a loop, but I was at the end of like an 8-hour coding session and just said fuck it. I duplicated this function, and I also found out later that I could use a dictionary, but again, this was already done. I could have just set an object that was, bronze equals bronze.png, set an if statement to see if x equals whatever, and then return that, but I didn't. So I just threw an S in front of it for solo find rank image, and then an F for flex find rank image, and let that be the thing. Then same deal, one function for each. That way I could just hard code the inner text as either solo or flex. Call it a day. And then the functions that we're calling up in the pull stats function that will go through these arrays and find, in the case of the champion, we'd have to provide a callback function to go into that champion array and say, for each champion in here, go to champion.key, and if the key equals x, which is the ID of the champion we're passing in, then return that, and then we can pull the image from that champ variable .image.full, and .image.full refers to .image.full. That way we can pull the asset out and display it. Easy peasy. ADA function appends, and then just items and spells. And that's the end of the JavaScript logic. Past that, it was all styling. This project required us to use Flexbox, so that is exactly what I did. All of my style on this half of the page was these three divs here. Sorry, my cursor wasn't on screen. All of my styling was these three divs here were all thrown into one Flexbox and just put into a column. I took the box that both penguins are in and the box that all the matches are in and put them in their own div. Did that in a column, but left the penguins in a row. Inside this matches card is another Flexbox where these were all put into a column. The item box here is also its own Flexbox. Threw everything into rows and then spaced it properly. The summoner spells are their own Flexbox, and then so is the text. And I just had to style one of these, and then my for loop just created the rest. Well, my for each loop. So I just made sure to start a div. I just had it start a div right here. Here we go. I just had it start a div right here, and then I closed it out in my pull stats function, had it append, and then reset back to an empty div, so that every time it would just throw everything into that card and leave it be. And then as far as styling goes, we just have a bit of box shadow around our match cards and around our overall match div, some border radiuses, some subtle borders, and I went with a little bit of an off-white, like light gray, so for the background, so that the white would really pop out, just for some contrast. And that's the whole project. All in all, I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished in just a couple days with my 2 weeks worth of JavaScript knowledge. It can only get better from here, but I just wanted to take a few minutes and share what we've accomplished in these brief 2 weeks. We're on our 7th coding vlog. That doesn't mean we're 7 weeks in, but we started this whole video series, a little over 3 weeks ago, and I feel like I've already gone leaps and bounds, and it's been a good time. There were some pretty cool projects aside from mine. One girl did a spelling bee, which is cooler than it sounds, because she had 4 different functionalities in there. She started out on a word of the day page, which was styled really nicely. Then she moved over to a flashcard system where you could add words that you'd like to practice, and they'd show up blank, and then you could click on them to show the definitions. She had what we would call a spelling bee, where it would play an audio file of a word, and you would have to type in how to spell it to the best of your ability. And then finally, I don't remember the last functionality actually, but she also had a really nice hamburger menu. Her design was super responsive, and she named the thing like Be Wordly and styled the whole thing on kind of a yellow, black, and white theme. It was real fun. There was also a guy who did an old school RuneScape item calculator where you could type in an item in the search bar and click on it, and it would go ahead and populate an image into the proper slot where that would go in your ear and start populating all of the positive and negative stats that would be given to your character. Apparently, a lot of his friends play OSRS, so that was good for him. That's about all I got for today. Just kind of an update. We're about to have the long weekend here. We don't have class Monday. We do have class Tuesday. We're going to be jumping straight into React. And we get to keep our same instructor, I guess, because the instructor who was supposed to teach this module accepted a position for more money somewhere else doing something. So that's pretty cool. Our instructor's a nice guy. I've mentioned before that he's patient as hell. I've told him to his face. I've said it in the mini surveys after class. I think that opinion has been noted at this point. I felt good with this project, getting compliments from the instructors. There were comments made from mostly two of the other instructors, but the main guy that I was just referencing also did make one comment or two. So, feels good to be recognized by people who are qualified enough to be our instructors. Told that you're doing a good job and seeing like genuine surprise on their face to see what you're working with. So I think that this project was incredibly complex from a standpoint of not knowing anything 2 weeks ago, and I'm pretty proud of it. So thanks for checking in. If you want to have me cover anything in general, feel free to leave a comment. As always, like, subscribe, and follow the page for more content in the future. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.